Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Back again.
You know how we do it? Always ready for a good deep dive with a little side of whatever you're sipping on.
That's right.
I am personally still on that Ethiopian coffee kick.
Are you still on this?
It's fueling this whole deep dive, let me tell you.
You and caffeine, a love story for the ages.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
But hey, whatever gets those brain gears turning right.
Right.
Speaking of brain gears, you ready to tackle this AI militarization thing?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's heavy stuff even for our caffeinated minds.
Okay, so full disclosure. I may have accidentally binged like 3 documentaries about killer robots last night.
Oh, no.
Not exactly light entertainment.
Yeah, right.
But it definitely got me thinking.
Yeah.
And a little freaked out, to be honest.
Understandably so.
So let's break it down for everyone listening.
Yep.
What exactly is AI militarization beyond the sci-fi movie stuff?
Well, think of it this way. It's like taking the brains of a chess grandmaster, the reflexes of a ninja, and the ruthlessness of, well, let's just say, a very determined Roomba.
Oh, my God.
And putting it all into a weapon.
That is terrifyingly good. Analogy. Okay, so we're not just talking about like drones that can fly themselves.
Right.
We're talking actual decision-making, potentially lethal AI.
You got it.
That's a whole other level of scary.
It is, and it's not just some future threat either. This is happening now.
Really?
Countries are pouring money into developing everything from AI-powered surveillance systems to autonomous weapons that can choose targets without human intervention.
No.
It's like the arms race got a software update.
Okay.
And it's moving at warp speed.
Okay, well, hold up a sec.
Okay.
Let's back up a bit.
All right.
Why are countries so obsessed with this? What's the big appeal of handing over the reins of war to algorithms? Is it just about efficiency, or is there something else going on?
Well, on the surface, it's all about gaining an edge on the battlefield, right? Imagine AI that can analyze intelligence data in milliseconds, predict enemy movements, and coordinate attacks with pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah.
It's like having a superpowered general who never sleeps and doesn't get tired.
Okay, I see the strategic advantage, but come on.
Yeah.
Is there a part of this that's just about good old-fashioned power grabbing?
Sure.
Like, if you have the most advanced AI weapons,
Yeah.
doesn't that make you the top dog in the global playground?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a keeping up with the Joneses aspect to it.
Right.
Nobody wants to be left behind in this technological arms race.
Yeah.
But it's not just about bragging rights. There's also a very real fear that if you don't develop these capabilities, you'll be vulnerable to those who do.
It's like that feeling when your neighbor gets a fancy new lawnmower and suddenly yours looks pathetic in comparison.
Right.
Except in this case, it's not a lawnmower.
Exactly.
It's a weapon that could, potentially reshape the entire world order.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so unsettling. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the way wars are fought.
Right.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
Okay, so we've established that AI militarization is happening.
Yeah.
And that it's driven by this mix of strategic goals and fear and maybe a little bit of ego.
Uh-huh.
But before we dive into the potential consequences of all of this, maybe we should take a quick break to hear from our friends over at Mickytolife.
Oh, yeah, I love those guys.
I hear they're doing a special episode on pairing whiskey with existential dread.
I can't wait for that one.
Perfect for this topic.
It's perfect.
Seriously, though, check out Mickytolife, folks. They'll take you on a journey from the Scottish Highlands to the depths of your own anxieties.
That's right.
All with a glass of fine whiskey in hand.
All responsibly, of course.
Of course. So after you've had your sip and pondered the meaning of it all, we'll be back to unpack the consequences of this whole AI militarization thing.
Looking forward to it.
Trust me, it's a wild ride.
It is. All right, welcome back, listeners. Hopefully you got that drink of choice ready, because we're diving right back into the deep end of AI militarization.
I do.
And trust me, you might need something strong to process this next part, the consequences.
Okay, I'm already a little freaked out from our pre-whiskey chat.
Right.
But lay it on me. What are we talking about here? World domination by robot overlords?
Oh.
Nuclear apocalypse triggered by a rogue algorithm.
I mean, those are definitely some worst-case scenarios, right?
Right.
But even without going full sci-fi, the potential consequences of AI militarization are pretty sobering, to say the least.
All right, so let's start with the most obvious one, unintended consequences.
Yeah.
We're talking machines making life or death decisions. What happens when the AI gets it wrong?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even my Roomba sometimes bumps into things, and that's just trying to clean my floors.
Right, exactly. And a Roomba mistake is just a scuff on your furniture.
Right.
But on a battlefield, a miscalculation could mean civilian casualties.
Oh.
Friendly fire, or even triggering a wider conflict. You know, we're talking about systems that can process information faster than any human, but they might not always understand the nuances of a situation.
Right.
The ethical implications of their actions.
Okay, that's seriously messed up.
Yeah.
It's like that time I accidentally replied all to an email chain at work.
Oh, no.
Except instead of a slightly embarrassing message going to everyone, it's a missile going to the wrong target.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Right.
And here's where it gets even more complicated, accountability.
Okay.
If an AI makes a deadly mistake, who takes the blame, the programmer, the military commander who deployed the system,
Right.
the AI itself.
You can't put a robot in jail.
Right, exactly. Our legal and ethical frameworks just aren't equipped to handle this kind of situation.
Right. And what about the soldiers themselves?
Yeah.
What happens to them in a world where wars are fought by machines?
Yeah, that's another huge concern. Will we see mass unemployment in the military as robots take over more and more roles?
Yeah.
What about the psychological impact of soldiers essentially becoming robot handlers, or even taking orders from AI?
I mean, think about it. You've spent your whole career training to be a soldier, to rely on your instincts, your judgment.
Right.
And suddenly you're told to trust a machine more than yourself.
Uh-huh.
That's got to mess with your head.
Yeah, and then there's the question of dehumanization.
Okay.
If we remove humans from the battlefield, does that make us more likely to go to war? Does it lower the threshold for using violence? I mean, if it's just robots fighting robots, does it even feel like a real war anymore?
Oh, that's chilling. It's like we're turning war into a video game where the consequences feel less impactful.
Right.
And that's dangerous territory, right? Because war should never be a game.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the potential for AI to be used for even more insidious purposes, disinformation campaigns. Propaganda manipulation of public opinion. We're already seeing this happening with deepfakes and social media algorithms.
Right.
But imagine that amplified by AI that can tailor messages to individual people, exploit their fears and biases, and sow discord on a massive scale.
Okay, so we've got robots making bad decisions, soldiers losing their jobs and their minds,
Right.
and AI turning us all against each other. This is starting to sound less like a deep dive and more like a descent into dystopian nightmare territory.
Well, it's definitely not all sunshine and roses.
Okay.
But hey, at least we have whiskey, right?
True.
And the ability to talk about these issues, to raise awareness, to hopefully steer things in a better direction.
Because burying our heads in the sand won't help.
Right.
We need to understand the risks so we can mitigate them.
Absolutely.
So where do we go from here? Is there any way to control this AI genie once it's out of the bottle?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And honestly, there are no easy answers.
Right.
But I think it starts with having open and honest conversations about the potential consequences like we're doing right now.
Right.
We need to push for ethical guidelines for international agreements.
Yes.
For transparency in AI development and deployment.
Right, because if we just let things unfold without any oversight, it's like driving a car with our eyes closed.
That's a good one, too.
So let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Get specific. You mentioned countries are already pouring resources into this.
Right.
Which one should we be most concerned about?
Well, based on the intel we've gathered, there are definitely some countries that stand out in terms of their AI capabilities and their potential to, let's say, use them in ways that might make you a little uneasy.
Okay, hit me with it. Who's at the top of the AI watch list?
Well, buckle up because we're about to embark on a little geopolitical thriller tour.
Ooh.
First stop, China. They're investing heavily in AI across the board. From facial recognition technology to autonomous drones to get this AI-powered judges.
Wait, AI judges? So like instead of a gavel, they have a microchip that decides your fate.
Pretty much.
That's straight out of a Black Mirror episode.
Right.
But okay, what about their military? How are they using AI in warfare?
They're developing some pretty sophisticated systems, including autonomous drones that can operate in swarms, AI-powered submarines that can patrol vast areas of the ocean, and even allegedly AI-assisted missile guidance systems.
Wow.
It's all very hush-hush, but the implications are pretty clear. They're aiming for a future where AI plays a central role in their military strategy.
Okay, That's definitely concerning. But what about their motivations?
Right.
Are they just trying to flex their technological muscles, or is there a more aggressive agenda at play?
Well, that's the debate, right?
Yeah.
Some argue they're just trying to catch up to the U.S. in terms of military tech to secure their borders and to protect their interests. Others see it as a sign of more expansionist ambitions, a desire to project power on a global scale.
Right.
And their track record with human rights and freedom of speech doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
Right. That's the thing about AI. It's a tool, and it can be used for good or for evil, depending on who's wielding it.
Exactly.
Okay, so China's definitely on the radar. Who else should we be watching?
Next up, we're heading west to Russia. They've been making some serious noise in the AI space lately.
Okay.
And not always in a good way. Remember all those disinformation campaigns during the last few elections?
Oh, yeah.
Well, AI is playing an increasingly central role in those efforts.
Right. It's like they've taken their old school propaganda playbook and given it a digital makeover.
Exactly.
But what about actual warfare? Are they using AI on the battlefield?
Oh, absolutely. They've been investing heavily in autonomous weapons systems, particularly drones and underwater vehicles. They even claim to have developed a tank that can be operated remotely by a human wearing a VR headset.
Okay, that's both cool and terrifying.
Oh, no, right?
But I can see the appeal of controlling a tank from the comfort of your couch, but it also feels like it could lead to some very reckless decisions. It's like playing Call of Duty, but with real-world consequences.
Exactly, and that's the danger here. AI could make war feel less real, less human, which could lower the threshold for using violence and increase the risk of escalation.
Okay, so we've got China and Russia as major players in the AI arms race. Who else is in the running?
Well, you can't talk about AI militarization without mentioning the United States.
Right.
Forefront of this technology for decades.
Of course.
And they're still pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right, from drones to cyber warfare. The U.S. has definitely been a pioneer in using AI for military purposes, but still the undisputed leader in this field?
That's a tough one to answer. They definitely have the resources and the talent, but other countries are catching up fast, and there are concerns that the U.S. might be falling behind in certain areas like hypersonic weapons development,
Right.
where China and Russia have made significant strides.
Okay, so it's a tight race, but what about the ethical implications? Is the U.S. taking those seriously, or full steam ahead with developing the most powerful AI weapons they can, regardless of the consequences?
That's a complex question. On the one hand, the U.S. has been more vocal than most about the need for ethical guidelines for human oversight and for preventing the development of fully autonomous weapons systems.
Right. I remember reading about that debate. It's basically about drawing a line in the sand and saying, we're not going to create robots that can decide to kill people without any human intervention.
Right.
But are they actually sticking to those principles?
That's the big unknown. There's a lot of secrecy surrounding AI development, so it's hard to know for sure what's happening behind closed doors.
Right.
And there's always the pressure to stay ahead of the competition, to not be seen as weak or vulnerable. So it's a delicate balancing act between pushing technological boundaries and ensuring ethical safeguards.
Okay, so the U.S. is a bit of a wild card in all this.
Yeah.
But who else is making moves in the AI arms race?
Well, there are a couple other players worth mentioning, like India and Israel, both of whom are developing sophisticated AI capabilities for military purposes. But for our last stop on this geopolitical thriller tour, we're going to a place that might surprise you, North Korea.
Wait, North Korea? The country that's famous for its vintage military parades and unpredictable leader. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they have nukes, but AI seems like a bit of a stretch for them.
You'd be surprised they've been investing heavily in AI research and development in recent years, and they've made some notable advances, particularly in cybersecurity and drone technology.
Okay, so maybe I underestimated them, but what are their motivations? Are they just trying to keep up with the big boys, or is there a more sinister agenda at play?
Well, that's the thing about North Korea. They're incredibly secretive and unpredictable.
Right.
It's hard to know what their true intentions are, but some analysts believe they see AI as a way to enhance their existing military capabilities, to make their missiles more accurate, their cyber attacks more effective, and their propaganda more persuasive.
Oh, that's a scary thought. Because if there's one thing we've learned about North Korea, it's that they're not afraid to use any means necessary to achieve their goals. And with AI in their toolkit, they could become even more dangerous.
Exactly. And that's why this whole AI arms race is so concerning. We're talking about incredibly powerful technology falling into the hands of governments that might not have the best track records when it comes to human rights, international law, or frankly, common sense.
Right.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, I'm officially freaked out. Now, this has gone way beyond killer robots and into full-blown geopolitical nightmare territory. Maybe we need another whiskey break before we delve into the even deeper philosophical and ethical questions surrounding all this.
I second that. And for those of you listening who might be feeling a little overwhelmed, remember, we're in this together.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. And the more we understand about these complex issues, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the choppy waters ahead.
Okay, so we've toured the world of AI militarization, and I've got to say, I'm feeling a little like I need a hug and maybe therapy session after all that. But before we spiral into a full-blown existential crisis, let's try to unpack some of the bigger questions lurking beneath the surface of all this.
Okay. Deep breaths, everyone. We're going philosophical now.
Oh, boy.
But seriously, you're right. It's not enough to just talk about the who and the what of AI militarization. We need to grapple with the why and the so what.
Right.
What does all this mean for the future of humanity?
Right, because we've been focusing on governments and militaries. But what about the impact on regular people?
Yeah.
You know, the ones who aren't wearing uniforms or coding killer robots.
Right. Well, for starters, there's the very real possibility that AI could make war more likely.
Really?
Even if that's not the intention. Think about it. If you have machines making decisions,
it
removes some of the human emotion.
Right.
The hesitation, the fear that usually acts as a brake on conflict.
It's like we're outsourcing our moral compass to algorithms. And that's terrifying because algorithms don't have a conscience. They don't understand the value of human life, the consequences of violence.
And that brings us to one of the biggest ethical dilemmas of our time.
Okay.
Should we hand over the reins of war to machines? Can AI ever truly understand the concept of just war of proportionality, of minimizing civilian casualties? Or are we setting ourselves up for a future where wars are fought with cold, calculating efficiency with no regard for human suffering?
I mean, think about it. If you're a soldier on the battlefield and you're facing an enemy that's being controlled by AI, that's a whole different level of psychological warfare.
Yeah.
You're not fighting another human being. You're fighting a machine that doesn't feel fear or pain, that doesn't hesitate to kill.
Right. And that could lead to a dehumanization of war, a disconnect between the act of violence and the consequences. It's like playing a video game where you can rack up kills without ever seeing the blood or hearing the screams, except in this case.
Yeah.
It's real people dying.
Okay, so that's pretty bleak. But are there any potential upsides to AI militarization? I mean, could it actually make the world safer in some ways?
Well, that's the argument some people make.
Okay.
They say that AI could help prevent accidental wars, reduce human error, and even lead to more targeted, less destructive forms of warfare.
Okay, I could see that. Like if you have AI systems that can detect and intercept missiles, that could potentially prevent a nuclear attack, right?
Exactly. And there's the potential for AI to be used in peacekeeping operations, in disaster relief, in humanitarian aid efforts. Imagine AI-powered drones delivering food and medicine to remote areas or robots helping to clear minefields.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
But it seems like the potential for both good and evil is huge.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to how we develop and use these technologies. So what can we do? Are we just at the mercy of these technological forces, or can we actually shape the future of AI militarization?
That's the challenge, right? We're not just passive observers in this. We have a responsibility to engage with these issues, to have these difficult conversations, to push for ethical guidelines and international agreements.
Right, because if we just leave it up to the governments and the tech companies, we might not like the outcome we need to be active participants in shaping the future of AI, both in the military and in society as a whole. Because this isn't just about weapons, it's about the kind of world we want to live in.
Exactly, and it's about the values we want to uphold. Do we want a world where machines are making life or death decisions? Where war is fought without human emotion or empathy? Or do we want a world where AI is used to enhance our security, to prevent conflict, to promote peace and understanding?
I know which world I'd rather live in, but how do we get there? I mean, it feels like this AI train is already leaving the station and it's going full speed ahead.
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's hopeless. We need to start by educating ourselves and others about the risks and benefits of AI militarization. We need to support organizations that are working on ethical AI development and regulation, and we need to hold our leaders accountable to demand that they prioritize human safety and well-being over technological advancement at all costs.
Okay, so no pressure, listeners. But the fate of humanity might just rest on our shoulders. No biggie.
Well, maybe not all the pressure, but we definitely have a role to play. And remember, even small actions can make a difference. Talking about these issues, sharing information, supporting ethical AI initiatives, these are all ways to contribute to a better future.
Right, because in the end, this isn't just about technology. It's about humanity. It's about the choices we make, the values we uphold, and the future we want to create.
Well said. So to recap, AI militarization is complex, it's scary, and it's happening right now.
Yeah.
But it's not a foregone conclusion. We still have time to shape the trajectory of this technology to ensure that it's used for good, not for evil.
Okay, folks, that's a wrap for our deep dive into the world of AI militarization. We covered a lot of ground, from the technical details to the geopolitical implications to the profound ethical questions that this technology raises.
And hopefully we've given you plenty to think about, maybe even enough to spark some conversations with your friends, your family, your elected officials, because the more we talk about these issues, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the uncharted waters of the AI age.
And remember, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the doom and gloom, our friends at Mickytolife are always there to provide a much-needed dose of humor, adventure, and, of course, whiskey.
Cheers to that. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
And most importantly, stay human. See you next time.